went into that DMV, and so people that don't know the story, I went into the DMV and found the energy to just be really bad. And, you know, and everyone's in these folding chairs clutching these papers, and everyone looked very gray.
They
like,
deserve it. Yes.
What?
They deserve it.
They deserve
people.
Well, and let's talk about why they are. I mean, you know, it's a culture of not feeling good. It's a culture, and and it's supported, and then it turns into everyone repeating it. Yeah. Like, well, I had that experience too. I mean, look what happens when I say the energy is not good in the DMV. Everyone goes, oh, well, we know that. You know, it's not like, oh, really? What was it like that there? You know, you don't ever. So.
Yeah, and I mean, it's an amazing thing if you get a cheerful DMV clerk.
Well, and I'm saying that the more all of us do our feelings work, the more that DMV clerks will be cheerful. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And, you know.
Both are contagious.
Yes.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Well, obviously. So there I am, and I'm just sitting there with everyone else feeling as bad. You know, I'm just like, all right, I feel bad too. And then I thought, well, I can't stand this. I would rather do anything than have this. And so I just stood up, and I'll just reenact it. I stood up, and I had to close my eyes because I was so nervous. I thought, I can't believe I'm doing this. You know, and I stood up, and I just went, Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. And I sang that whole first verse by myself, and it was so scary, but my eyes were closed, so it helped. But that, you know, so then I started, when that ended, I started up again. I thought, I'm just going to keep singing. And I sang the second verse, and I heard a woman over here, I heard a woman over there, and I heard a guy over there, and people started joining. And by the end of the third verse, everyone was singing, including the people behind the bulletproof glass. And, you know, that's what we can all do. We can be those transformational change agents that go around the world and do it differently. I'll tell you an advanced one. I don't think I put this in the book. An advanced one that I don't recommend any of you try. I don't know that I will do it again, but I did do something. I was at the bank, and I was in a line, and I was tired. And I suddenly was standing there, and I thought, why can't we lie down in the bank? And so I laid down. And the security guard came running over and said, are you all right? I said, yes, I'm all right. I'm quite tired, though. I thought I would just lie down. And he said, you can't do that. And I said, why? It's against the rule. I said, what rule? And he said, it's a bank rule. I said, you're just making all this up right now. And he said, it's just not allowed. And I said, well, you're just still making it up, and it makes no sense, and this is my bank, and I'm not taking up any more space than if I was standing. So what difference does it make if I'm horizontal and on the ground, or upright and vertical? And then, you know, he was really getting confused. And then this woman, a couple of people up said, she's right, it's our bank. And so she said, I'm not going to lie down, but I'm going to sit down. And so she sat down, and then this man said, well, I would lie down, but I'm in a suit. So he sat on his attaché case. Oh, no. And the security guard eventually just put up his hand, went like this, and just walked away. Wow. And there I was, and I just thought, this is so wonderful, you know? And you know, I mean, again, I don't know that I would do it again, but I was just moved in that moment, you know, and I think there's so much room for us all to do more things differently.
And to be more like children, going back to my introduction of you.
Yes, yes. I know, it's funny, I was on a radio show the other day, and I started telling the story about lying down in the bank. I started in the beginning of the interview, and the guy said, okay, but can we please tell people how great your books are, and you're not just some crazy lady lying down in the bank? And I said, you know what, I don't mind if anyone listening thinks I'm a crazy lady who lies down in the bank. That's the part, like, does that mean then that nothing else I say has value? Like, what kind of world did we construct where we judge what people do based, I mean, it's a little crazy, it's quite crazy, actually. And so I've just been playing so much with, my other recent one was at the airport. I got there, and the guy was so upset to tell me, it was as if he was telling me my house burned down. He's like, there is a 3-hour delay. And I said, that's great. I said, it's a perfect time to build a fort. And he just looked at me, and then I went over in the corner and I took my scarf, this scarf, and I took this cape that I have, and I used a luggage rack, and I built a fort in the corner of the airport. And then I went and got a bag of Cheetos, and I crawled in there. And I was so happy in my fort. I was lying down, I was eating Cheetos, and then this woman came over and said, excuse me, is this a fort? And I said, yes, and you can't come in. And it was the happiest 3 hours in an airport I'd ever spent, you know?
It's my fort.
But I mean, having said all that, I want to hasten to say that I also can get very shy, very introverted, very rooted in Minnesota, which is where I was raised. And although I did have a very succulent wild mother who would tell you that she was the succulent wild woman of her generation. And to give you an idea, I gave her, I mean, this is just one tiny example of a million examples, but I gave her a button one time, and she wore it to church on her coat prominently. And the button said, please be brief, I have diarrhea.
Oh my gosh, that was a good conversation piece.
I profiled my mom in Succulent Wild Woman, and I asked her what she was most grateful for, and she smiled and said, elastic.
Elastic. Wow. That's so cute.
That's what was Elizabeth Taylor said, beware of elastic waisted pants. You can become quite fat without realizing that it's happened.
That's true. And mirrors that only go to waist high.
But I think, you know, and so there's times I hide, and there's times I don't feel my feelings, and there's times, you know, because it's easy when someone writes books or they speak a lot to project onto them that they're just somehow, you know, well, it's easier for her because she's more adventurous, or it's easier for her. No, it isn't. It isn't any easier at all.
No.
It's just different.
And actually, there's an element where when you aren't everything that you always write about, you have this struggle with your authenticity, and you're always like, there's the inner critic for me. I'm always like, oh my God, you're so not authentic.
Oh. Oh, I know. I love when people say, you're so authentic. You're just so authentic. And I'm inside thinking, no, I'm completely judging you, and I'm not authentic at all. And I dislike you and wish you'd stop talking. You know, I mean, it happens.
One word off on my Facebook, and I don't get 25 likes. I get 4. I'm like, oh my God, I said something wrong today.
Oh, I know.
There's a lot of, I mean, everyone's in the same, everybody's in the same boat. I mean, I think the beauty of being able to write and to share is that it allows you to practice your consciousness, and it holds you accountable in a way.